Eddie, one of the greatest genius musicians in rock ever. I'm not jealous. I'm not, dislike the guy.
Sammy Hagar was the voice that launched Van Halen into a new stratosphere, the Red Rocker who helped craft some of the band's most unforgettable anthems. But behind the fame, fortune, and chart-topping hits, Hagar was fighting a far more personal battle. Now, at 76, he has finally broken his silence, revealing the untold truth behind his shocking departure from one of rock's most legendary bands. Was it ego? Betrayal? Or something deeper and more human? The real story is far more complex than fans ever imagined. To understand why Sammy is speaking out now, we have to go back to where it all began. Before the spotlight found him, Sammy Hagar was just a kid wandering the sun-soaked streets of Fontana, California in the 1950s. His family, like many working-class households of the time, faced constant financial hardship, moving from one modest home to the next. Despite the challenges, Sammy discovered joy in one thing: music. At age 11, everything changed when he scraped together enough money to order a $40 guitar from a Sears catalog. It was a simple, unremarkable guitar, but it lit a fire that would guide the rest of his life. Without any formal training, he locked himself in his bedroom and taught himself to play, filling the house and the neighborhood with raw, unfiltered rock and roll. By 14, he had formed his first band, the Fabulous Castles. While they never broke into the big leagues, the thrill of performing live ignited something permanent in him. At 17, he snuck into the Swing Auditorium in San Bernardino to see the Rolling Stones perform live. That show changed everything. The energy, rebellion, and sheer power of that night confirmed what Sammy already suspected: his destiny was music. When high school ended, Sammy faced a defining choice: follow a conventional path or risk everything on his passion. He chose the latter, dropping out of school and throwing himself headfirst into the world of music. The years that followed were anything but glamorous. Hagar fronted several local bands: the Johnny Fortune Band, Big Bang, Skinny, and Dust Cloud. Each band added to his experience and sharpened his skills, but none brought him instant fame. To survive, he picked fruit, mowed lawns, delivered newspapers, whatever it took to get by. Still, he never lost sight of the dream. Through all the rejection and uncertainty, his passion for music only grew stronger. By the early 1970s, Sammy's dedication began to pay off. Influential figures in the music industry started to take notice, and the opportunities that would one day lead to his role in Van Halen began to appear on the horizon. His solo career gained momentum with hits like "I Can't Drive 55," establishing him as a powerhouse vocalist with undeniable charisma and grit. Meanwhile, the story of Van Halen was already in motion. The band's roots stretched back to the Netherlands, where brothers Alex and Eddie Van Halen were born into a musical family. After immigrating to the U.S. in 1962 and settling in Pasadena, California, the brothers formed their first band, the Broken Combs, during their school years. In 1972, they joined forces with vocalist David Lee Roth and bassist Mark Stone to form Mammoth, soon renamed Van Halen when they discovered another band already had the name. Stone was replaced by Michael Anthony, completing the classic lineup. Van Halen built their reputation in clubs and backyard parties, quickly developing a loyal fan base with their electrifying performances and innovative sound. Their big break came in 1978 with the release of their self-titled debut album, which featured tracks like "Runnin' with the Devil" and their iconic cover of "You Really Got Me." The album shot to number 19 on the U.S. charts, achieving gold and platinum status. Eddie's revolutionary guitar work and Roth's showmanship made them instant rock gods. Despite their success, internal tensions began to simmer. Eddie Van Halen's decision to build his home studio, 5150, in 1983 created friction, particularly with Roth, who felt increasingly sidelined. Eddie's shift toward a more keyboard-driven, pop-influenced sound clashed with Roth's vision of hard-edged rock. The breaking point came in 1985, even after the commercial success of their album 1984, which included hits like "Jump Panama" and Hot for teacher. Roth left the band to pursue a solo career, leaving Van Halen at a crossroads. Their search for a new frontman included a series of auditions, but fate had its own plan. Eddie met Sammy Hagar at an auto garage, and the two clicked instantly. Within 20 minutes of jamming at 5150, Eddie offered him the spot. Hagar, already a solo star, brought a new energy to the band, less flamboyant than Roth, but more grounded and vocally versatile. Thus began the Van Hagar era. Hagar's arrival in 1985 divided fans. Some missed the wild edge of Roth, while others welcomed the band's more mature, melodic evolution. Either way, the results spoke for themselves. The album 5150 was a massive hit, debuting at number 1 on the Billboard charts and featuring classics like Why Can't This Be Love? Hagar's powerful voice and stage presence, combined with Eddie's ever-evolving guitar brilliance, ushered in a new chapter of success. And yet, as with so many rock legends, success came at a cost that Hagar would carry for decades. The story behind his departure, once clouded by rumors and egos, is now finally coming into focus. OU812 topped the charts and produced hit singles like Why Can't This Be Love? But by the mid-1990s, cracks in Van Halen's foundation had become impossible to ignore. The relationship between Sammy Hagar and Eddie Van Halen had begun to deteriorate, strained by creative clashes, growing personal differences, and notably, Eddie's controversial decision to reconnect with David Lee Roth during a time of heightened tension with Hagar. In 1996, Hagar left the band, though some argue he was actually fired. The result was a brief and chaotic reunion with Roth. Van Halen recorded 2 new tracks with Roth for a greatest hits album, and fan excitement peaked when Roth appeared on stage with the band at the MTV Video Music Awards. However, backstage, old animosities flared. Roth clashed with Eddie over the band's future, and the reunion unraveled almost as quickly as it had begun. With both Roth and Hagar gone, Van Halen turned to Gary Cherone, formerly of Extreme, as their new frontman. But the resulting album, Van Halen 3, failed to resonate with fans or critics, marking a significant low point in the band's legacy. By 1999, the group went on hiatus. In 2004, Van Halen reunited with Hagar for a tour and new tracks for the Best of Both Worlds compilation. While the reunion brought hope to fans, the experience was anything but joyful. Eddie's ongoing struggles with substance abuse and persistent internal tensions made the tour miserable for everyone involved. Hagar would later describe it as one of the most painful chapters of his career. Despite the fractured experience, Hagar expressed compassion for Eddie's struggles and regret over how things ended. However, another point of conflict emerged: Hagar's continued collaboration with original bassist Michael Anthony, who had been replaced in later lineups by Eddie's son, Wolfgang Van Halen. Hagar's loyalty to Anthony only widened the rift between him and the Van Halen brothers, ultimately contributing to what would become his final departure from the band. Still, Hagar never lost hope for reconciliation. He envisioned a future where time and healing might allow him and Eddie to reconnect, not just as musicians, but as friends. In the years following his departure, Hagar found peace in new ventures. He poured his energy into music, business, and personal growth, channeling past pain into creativity and positivity. Reflecting on his time with Van Halen, he continues to cherish the highs, the musical brilliance, the sold-out shows, and the millions of fans they reached, while acknowledging the deep personal and professional challenges that haunted the journey. The final blow came with Eddie Van Halen's tragic death. Hagar mourned deeply, extending heartfelt condolences to Eddie's family and honoring the complicated, legendary partnership they once shared. Their collaboration, born out of coincidence when a shared love of cars brought them together at a repair shop, would go on to define one of the most transformative eras in rock history. The Van Hagar years yielded 4 highly successful albums, including 5150, a game-changing release that redefined the band's sound and helped solidify its place in rock royalty. Yet, as with all creative partnerships between larger-than-life artists, the tension was always there. Hagar and Eddie clashed in ways reminiscent of Eddie's earlier battles with Roth. It seemed that Eddie's most enduring collaborations were those shared with his brother Alex, where trust and shared heritage provided stability. Over time, the friction between Hagar and Eddie grew into deep fractures. The 1996 split was marked by misunderstanding and resentment. Eddie claimed that Hagar's solo ambitions distracted from the band's goals, while Hagar maintained that he had been blindsided, pushed out unfairly, and informed of the decision in a crushing phone call. Adding to the hurt, that call also announced the return of Roth, which felt to Hagar like a betrayal of their shared success and a dismissal of his contributions. The choice to move forward with Gary Cherone didn't deliver the revival Eddie hoped for. Van Halen 3 alienated many fans and failed commercially. Looking back, some wondered if Eddie's frequent lineup changes were less about musical evolution and more about his restless pursuit of personal harmony. Ultimately, the conflict between Hagar and Van Halen wasn't just a matter of music, it stemmed from deeper cultural and personal differences. Hagar's laid-back, California-inspired ethos often clashed with the more serious, disciplined personalities of Eddie and Alex Van Halen, who were shaped by their Dutch heritage and upbringing. Even something as seemingly trivial as Hagar's carefree anthem, Amsterdam, irritated the brothers, revealing how fundamentally different their worldviews really were. These growing tensions came to a head during the making of Balance, setting the stage for the final unraveling of a partnership that once rocked the world. In 1995, what should have been a triumphant moment for Van Halen instead turned into a grueling and tension-filled experience. The making of their Balance album was marked by constant disagreements between Sammy Hagar and Eddie Van Halen, and the subsequent tour fared no better. Creative and personal clashes plagued the group, draining the joy from their performances. By the tour's end, Hagar was desperate for a break, wanting to spend time with his newborn child. But Eddie and Alex were already diving into their next project. The strain became unbearable, and the band unraveled soon after. The final break came on Father's Day in 1996, when Eddie called Hagar and delivered the crushing news: he was no longer part of Van Halen. For years, the once powerful partnership between Hagar and Eddie remained broken, reduced to silence and bitter memories. But time has a way of softening even the hardest hearts. In 2016, Hagar extended an olive branch via Twitter, wishing Eddie a happy birthday. It was a small gesture, but a meaningful one that opened the door to reconciliation. From there, the two slowly began to rebuild their relationship, finding peace and letting go of old wounds. Hagar would later express his deep gratitude for the closure they achieved, recognizing how important it was to end things on a positive note. In later interviews, Hagar reflected on the complexity of their conflict. One subtle yet significant factor, he suggested, may have been his close bond with bassist Michael Anthony. Their friendship extended beyond music. They often spent time laughing and talking offstage. While innocent on the surface, this dynamic may have made Eddie feel excluded, possibly deepening the existing tensions within the band. Hagar acknowledged the powerful musical chemistry he shared with Anthony, particularly their signature vocal harmonies, which became a cornerstone of the Van Hagar sound. That creative connection brought something unique to the band, an energy and collaborative spirit that was difficult to replicate. Looking back, Hagar attributed much of Van Halen's turmoil to personal struggles, especially substance abuse. In a candid 2023 interview, he expressed regret over the opportunities they lost to dysfunction and feuds, lamenting the greater heights they might have reached if only they'd managed to overcome their differences. The band's battles with addiction were no secret. Their former manager, Noel Monk, described their chaotic lifestyle vividly in his memoir Running with the Devil. Fueled by ego, alcohol, and drugs, Van Halen personified the hedonistic excesses of Southern California's rock culture. Their unofficial motto, "Drink a bottle of booze, pop a couple ludes, smoke a joint or 2 or 10, and see where the night takes you," summed up the self-destructive spirit that, while iconic, ultimately led to their downfall. Yet, remarkably, the story of Eddie Van Halen and Sammy Hagar didn't end in bitterness. Against all odds, their turbulent relationship took a surprising turn toward peace and mutual understanding. Before Eddie's death in 2020, the two reconciled in private, a deeply personal resolution that brought immense relief to Hagar. Acknowledging the difficulties of maintaining a public relationship, especially as Eddie's health declined, they chose not to announce their reunion. Out of respect for Eddie's wishes and a desire to avoid media speculation, they kept it between themselves. The reconciliation happened with the help of an unlikely individual, actor and comedian George Lopez. After Hagar's repeated attempts to reach Eddie failed, Lopez stepped in to bridge the gap. Thanks to his intervention, the two musicians finally spoke again. Their first conversation was awkward, but it opened the door to genuine, heartfelt exchanges. They decided to keep their renewed friendship out of the spotlight, focusing instead on healing old wounds and cherishing the time they had left as friends. For Hagar, that reconciliation was life-changing. He expressed immense gratitude for the chance to reconnect with Eddie, believing those conversations brought closure, peace, and emotional healing. Without that final opportunity to make amends, Hagar admitted, he would have carried deep regret for the rest of his life. Since then, he has spoken often about the importance of resolving conflicts, expressing love, and offering forgiveness, even in the most difficult circumstances. Reflecting on their time together, Hagar also recognized the creative synergy they once shared. In a Fox News interview, he explained how Eddie saw in him a vocalist who could truly understand and perform his complex musical ideas. Their collaboration wasn't just successful, it was electric, and it left behind a legacy that continues to resonate with rock fans across generations. The partnership between Sammy Hagar and Eddie Van Halen allowed the legendary guitarist to explore new musical frontiers, resulting in some of Van Halen's most iconic work. Reflecting on their complex relationship, Hagar expressed regret over certain details he shared in his memoir, acknowledging that the book may have unintentionally cast Eddie in an overly negative light. With the clarity that comes from time and reconciliation, Hagar admitted he would have portrayed Eddie differently, focusing more on his extraordinary talent and the positive impact he had on his life. Ultimately, Hagar remains deeply grateful for their reconciliation, as it allowed him to revisit their shared history without bitterness. He later shared this sentiment with Howard Stern, affirming the peace and closure he and Eddie found before Eddie's passing. After Eddie's death, Hagar channeled his emotions into a heartfelt tribute that celebrated the late guitarist's unparalleled genius and the profound bond they once shared. This tribute marked not just the end of an era but a personal release of years of tension and reflection. Continuing to honor Eddie and their time together, Hagar, now 76, recently thrilled fans with an electrifying performance at the Barrett-Jackson Auto Auction in Scottsdale. Defying the expectations of age, Hagar lit up the stage with the same raw energy that has defined his career for decades. In an interview with Arizona's Family, he opened up about his enduring passion for music and the reason he continues to perform while others his age consider retirement. Reflecting on the unique privileges of his rock star life, Hagar recounted conversations with Hollywood icons like Al Pacino and Sylvester Stallone, who admired his vibrant, youthful energy. While promoting his new line of cocktails and the Best of All Worlds 2024 summer tour, Hagar humbly acknowledged his continued success and the gratitude he feels for being able to keep doing what he loves. Looking back on his years with Van Halen, he fondly recalled the band's legendary live performances, naming tracks like Heavy Metal Right Now, Top of the World, and Why Can't This Be Love as enduring fan favorites. He expressed a special fondness for Heavy Metal, a song that reignites his youthful energy every time he performs it. Hagar likens himself to other enduring rock icons like Mick Jagger and Keith Richards, artists who continue to perform driven purely by love for the stage. Beyond music, Hagar has proven to be a savvy entrepreneur, founding the Cabo Wabo restaurant chain and launching his own rum brand. For him, creativity is the common thread between music and business. Both require passion, intuition, and a willingness to take risks. He sees strong parallels between crafting a hit song and building a successful business. Both demand trust in one's vision and the courage to follow it. In August 2023, Hagar brought his electrifying stage presence back to Arizona, performing at the Talking Stick Resort Amphitheater in Phoenix. The show took fans on a nostalgic journey through his storied career, blending solo hits with Van Halen classics. The set honored the band's legacy while celebrating Hagar's own unique contributions, creating an unforgettable night of rock for longtime fans. When asked about retirement, Hagar was clear: so long as he can deliver high-quality performances, he has no plans to stop. His gratitude for his audience and his commitment to creating memorable experiences continue to fuel his enduring career. In late 2023, Hagar announced his highly anticipated Best of All Worlds tour, a celebration of Van Halen's music featuring a powerhouse lineup: Michael Anthony on bass, Joe Satriani on guitar, and Jason Bonham on drums. The tour kicked off in West Palm Beach with a dynamic 21-song set that honored Van Halen's legacy while showcasing Hagar's solo career. The opening night featured 12 Van Halen-era tracks alongside fan-favorite solo cuts like "There's Only One Way to Rock." Satriani wowed audiences with his guitar mastery, even playing part of his solo with his teeth in tribute to Eddie Van Halen, while Anthony added nostalgia by taking lead vocals on "Ain't Talkin' 'Bout Love." The night also included a solo by Satriani that paid direct homage to Eddie's signature style. In an interview with Ultimate Classic Rock, Hagar explained why he chose to include so many Van Halen tracks in the setlist. Though initially hesitant to revisit the material, he now embraces it as a way to thank the fans for their unwavering support. For Hagar, the focus has shifted from making statements to crafting unforgettable memories. The response to the tour has been overwhelmingly positive, with fans embracing the mix of Van Halen classics and Hagar's solo work. However, the tour hasn't been without controversy. In an interview with Billboard, Alex Van Halen criticized the tour, expressing disappointment at not being invited to participate. He claimed the show doesn't fully capture the true essence of Van Halen and voiced concern about the band's legacy being represented without the full original members. Despite the critique, Hagar's intent remains rooted in gratitude, celebration, and honoring the legacy of a band and a friendship that changed rock history forever. Alex Van Halen has made it clear that he has no interest in participating in any Van Halen-related projects, expressing that the current lineup doesn't fully represent the band's legacy. Despite multiple outreach efforts from Sammy Hagar inviting him to join the tour, Alex has remained unresponsive. Still, as Hagar continues to electrify audiences night after night, one song seems to encapsulate his lasting energy and enduring spirit, a timeless hit that remains a fan favorite. Sammy Hagar's career reads like the blueprint of a rock and roll dream. From his explosive beginnings with Montrose to his legendary run with Van Halen, Hagar has continuously redefined what it means to be a rock star. Known for fusing hard rock with melodic storytelling, he's become an enduring icon in the genre. Among his many achievements, Hagar regards as one of his most personal and meaningful songs, a reflection of the man behind the music. While Hagar has built his legacy on high-energy anthems like Pound Cake, which celebrates the carefree, rebellious spirit of rock, he's never shied away from deeper themes. Songs like Dreams speak to hope and purpose, and even in his early days with Montrose, Hagar explored universal human experiences, love, loss, and the fleeting nature of life, encouraging listeners to embrace every moment. Stands apart in his discography. A heartfelt tribute to his daughter, the song reveals a softer, more introspective side of the Red Rocker. Its poignant lyrics, set against a driving rock riff, create a compelling contrast that captivates listeners. Hagar has often called a pinnacle of his songwriting, a deeply personal work that fuses poetic lyricism with powerful instrumentation. To him, it's not just a love letter to his daughter, it's also a reflection of his growth as both an artist and a father. The song stands as a testament to music's transformative power to express life's deepest emotions. While some might view as overly sentimental, Hagar's sincerity and vulnerability elevate it, making it one of the most emotionally resonant pieces in his catalog. Its impact is comparable to the heartfelt works of legends like Freddie Mercury and John Lennon. In many ways, feels like a forerunner to Dave Grohl's Miracle, both songs exploring the profound themes of fatherhood, love, and emotional depth that often go untapped in rock music. While unconventional for the genre, their honesty and authenticity underscore what music is truly about: connection. And while Kama unveiled Hagar's heart, there was still one legendary band he had always dreamed of joining. In a surprising revelation during an interview with Classic Rock magazine, Hagar shared that he had once hoped to audition for the iconic rock band Foreigner. Unfortunately, financial constraints at the time made it impossible. During the golden era of rock in the 70s and 80s, the paths of rising stars often crossed, and Hagar formed a genuine camaraderie with the members of Foreigner while touring with Montrose. Over the years, this bond grew into a lasting friendship rooted in mutual respect for each other's talents. Decades later, Hagar paid tribute to this connection by inducting Foreigner into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. During the ceremony, he performed their classic hit, Hot-Blooded, a song he had long admired. For Hagar, it was more than just a performance, it was a full-circle moment. With his signature humor, he admitted he had always dreamed of singing Hot-Blooded earlier in his career but never got the opportunity. He even revealed that there was a time he considered replacing Lou Gramm as Foreigner's frontman. Although his vocal style made him a natural fit, logistical obstacles prevented it from becoming reality. Nevertheless, Hagar holds deep respect for Gramm and the original Foreigner lineup, recognizing their immense impact on rock history. Stepping into Gramm's shoes for the Hall of Fame performance wasn't without its challenges. Hagar admitted feeling slightly intimidated by the iconic status of the song. He recounted a humorous moment during rehearsal when Gramm, ever the perfectionist, gently corrected his timing. The exchange was lighthearted and reflected the genuine camaraderie between two powerhouse vocalists who share an intimate understanding of the craft. Both Hagar and Gramm are known for their dynamic stage presence and vocal range, and they often laugh about adapting their techniques to keep up with the demands of aging while still thrilling fans with unforgettable performances. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, and turn on post notifications to stay updated with more legendary rock content.